Sexual innuendos were part of one of the roles that my next guest on the Tea Time sofa, Julie Kirk Thomas, played in the Benny Hill Show. Known as the Benny Defender on Twitter after her appearance on Good Morning Britain, we chat about sexual content on TV because Benny is back and that's TV Christmas. We also chat about Julie's career, her parts in Beatles About and Indiana Jones. So let's find out more. Julie, welcome to Tea Time with me, Ali Monjack. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really, really well, thank you. And the sun is shining from beautiful Llangollen, North Wales.
How do you say that?
Cla, 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 Llan, go, llen. We have lots of different... Llen. You can say it. Yeah, I learned Welsh. I learned Welsh when I met my husband. Yeah.
Did you? Oh, amazing. So is he Welsh?
He's 100% Welshman. He didn't learn English till he was 8. So he comes from a village about 8 miles away from here. And it's the longest, it's not the longest named village, it's the second longest. It's Rhoslanachigog, but they call it Rhos for short. And yeah, so I just thought I'd take 3 months out of my life. I was only 26 and I'd worked continuously for many, many years. And I just thought, oh, do you know what? I'd like to learn Welsh because my grandmother was Welsh from Anglesey. So I thought, I'll just bring it back into the family. And I knew he was the one anyway. So I thought he was worth investing in. So I went to Cardiff University and did a crash course for 3 months, Welsh every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday mornings, 3 hours, fantastic teacher, and then homework in the afternoon, and then practice your homework in the pub at night. So that was
fantastic. No, that sounds really good, and good for you, because I think, you know, no matter what age you are, it's all about learning, isn't it? Definitely.
Oh, I love languages. If I had my time again, I would love to have learned. I mean, I did speak Russian. When I was 17, I went to work on a Russian cruise liner for 10 months out in Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, doing all around Fiji Islands and New Zealand. And all the crew, captain, everybody, was 400 crew were Russian. And so I learnt Russian in 10 months, not fluently, but enough to get by. Lots of lovely Russian songs. But of course, I came back to London and I didn't, you know, I've lost it now. I can sing one little Russian song, that's about it. And I've got a Russian lady here in Llangollen. Every time I see Marina, I speak Russian to her, my little snippets, which is nice. But
yeah, no, definitely. That sounds really good. So, I mean, we are here really, I mean, to talk about your career, because you've had an acting and dancing career, haven't you? And actually, this just recently, Benny Hill is back on TV, isn't he? And he, God rest his soul, is bless him on That's TV. So people can tune in who you know, enjoyed that era, or, you know, even younger people now, because, you know, in my eyes, it was a little bit of harmless fun, wasn't it?
Honestly, when I did the shows, I've been watching the reruns and I've been recording them and watching 2 or 3 a night. And to be honest, the first crowd that were coming out, they were the ones that I was watching when I was at home with my grandparents who brought me up in Skegness. I could remember watching them when I was sort of 15 years old. And there was one particular one last night I saw and I thought, oh my gosh, I remember that one. Oh, wow, I must have watched that X amount of years ago. They're so tame. These early ones are so tame. And then, of course, I did them at sort of 1980, 1981. I did 2 series. And I was super lucky that I didn't have to do anything I really didn't want to, anything that I didn't feel comfortable with. But I must tell you about the audition, actually, because the audition, I didn't even realise I was auditioning for the Benny Hill Show. I'd seen an advert in the back of the stage and television newspaper, which was our, and still is, Bible really for getting jobs. And there was a little tiny ad, wanted good dancers with a sense of humour for new TV series. So I thought, oh, I've always wanted to break into comedy, so I'll give it a whirl. And I went along to the dance centre in Flora Street in the morning and I danced. I don't remember if I sang, but I definitely read a script with somebody. I can't remember who it was. And then they said, oh, come back after lunch, Julie. So I thought, all right. And they said, come back after lunch and you can find out who the star of the show is. So I went and met a friend for lunch, and she kept saying, oh, I wonder who it is. I wonder. We're getting all excited, going through names of people. Who could it be who's just been given then a series? And I walked back into the dance centre at 2:00, and Benny Hill comes walking up to me going, hello, little heart. I hear you did an excellent audition this morning. Now, would you like to read the script with me? And I remember thinking, going, yes, and thinking, oh, I'm not sure if I want to be on the Benny Hill show. I do remember having that thought. I'm not sure if this is where I want to go. But then I read, and then I finally got home to my flat, and my flatmate said, oh, Julie, where have you been? Benny Hill's been on the phone for you. He's ringing back in an hour's time. So he rang back and he said, you know, fantastic little heart, you did a great audition. I really want you on the show. So it was all done really quickly without, but I was super lucky. I was right in the middle of the runs for him, and the shows, and he was actually, I think the directors and the producers they were in a ratings war with the BBC. So Thames, Benny's crowd, really were trying to up the ratings, because we had a hot gossip on the other side with Kenny Everett, and that was the war that was going on at the time. And I think it just escalated after I left. You know, the camera angles did get, you know, rather dangerous, I thought, and I was super glad that I actually wasn't doing the dance routines at that time in my life. I'd moved on to other comedy shows. I'd moved on to Beatles About, where I really, well, that was just another crazy thing that I was doing, really.
Jeremy Beadle. So yes,
that was my heart used to sink, Ali, when my agent rang, because I had the same agent as Benny Hill. I was really lucky. I had Richard Stone partnership, and my agent would ring and say, oh, Beatles About have booked you for another scam, Julie. And so my heart would go, oh no, what have I got to do to what awful thing have I got to do to some poor unsuspecting person? But then my other thought was, oh, money, because they paid and exposure, you know. So I was thinking, oh my God, you know, the two and two, but they go in hand. So the worst thing about that job was I wouldn't get the actual scam, the idea. They'd bike it over to me because of security, and they didn't want the ideas leaked to anybody. They wouldn't bike over the idea from London Weekend TV on the South Bank to me in Tooting till about 9 o'clock that night. And I was always like just about going to bed, because I had to get up so early and get to the venue, the sketch, where we were running it. And so I didn't have time to sort of process and think, of some ideas of my own and how I could make it work. So that was really hairy, scary.
Really,
I remember,
was it?
I remember one particular scam we did. There's a really funny one, actually. The washing machine one was the funniest one. Well, I call it the washing machine one. But I was playing a business lady in an office block who had a delivery, a massive delivery, and the parcel was as big as a washing machine. It was massive. And these two guys delivered it. And then I said, actually, that's not for me. I've got another one coming. Could you take it down another level to the next floor, please? But come and have a quick coffee and sign this document. So I took them into my office. And while I was distracting them with coffee in my office, they got two carpenters in and they made the door frame smaller, so that by the time I said, okay, thanks guys, do you want to just move that parcel back down? They couldn't get the parcel back. They couldn't get this great big, looked like a big washing machine back out. And they just couldn't believe it. They said, but we got it in. You got it in here? Why can't we get it out? Oh, it was just, I don't know how we didn't, I don't know how we could keep straight faces. It was brilliant. And then there was a really scary one. That was a funny one. The scariest one I ever did was I was a council official with a clipboard, and they all said to me, wear glasses, Julie, she might hit you. I went, oh, what? Why? Well, we're going to be uprooting her beloved cherry tree from the front of her garden. And they got a big diggers. They'd got diggers very carefully with landscape gardeners all around her cherry tree. And when she came home, she just went absolutely ballistic, this lady. And I was the council official saying, we're going to put a bus stop here. We're going to put a bus stop in. Yes, I'm sorry. No, this is not your garden, actually. We've seen it. It's not your garden. It belongs to the town council. And we're going to be putting a bus stop here. And it's just,
Just really
I think my
funny.
clipboard was shaking so much. I had to take it out of shot.
Oh no, oh no. But yeah, yeah, but she didn't hit you.
She didn't. She just gave me a lot of verbal. So there we are. But yes.
And then when Jeremy turned up, what was she like?
Oh, she was still fuming, actually. Steam was coming out of her ears. She was quite a force, this lady. And I thought, why on earth did her husband set her up to do this? She's going to have a right old pop at him, you know, after we've all gone. She's not going to laugh. She didn't seem to have a sense of humor.
No, not by the sounds of things. That's the thing, isn't it? But that's what that era was all about, wasn't it? It was that sort of, you know, taking the, you know, Mickey, or, you know, playing tricks on people. And
I don't know if Ali, you remember Candid Camera, because I was brought up with Candid Camera with Sheila Burnett doing quite a lot of sketches on that, and I just remember thinking, oh my god, I want to do something like that, because all my stuff wasn't as I think Candid Camera was funnier than Beatles About scams, because they were sometimes a little bit too cruel. They didn't have so much comedy element as I would have liked to have had. That was my bag, comedy. You know, I was my heroine was Lucille Ball. Just absolutely love wacky old Lucy.
And she, I mean, she was amazing, wasn't she? Her own sort of thing, and truly kind of amazing as a, you know, a bit of an icon, really, wasn't she? Even, you know, fabulous. Even, you know, even if you were sort of born in the 80s, you kind of still know who she is. You know, it's she was one of those kind of characters that a lot of people kind of aspired to. You know,
the face, the funny face. You didn't even have to say anything. A bit like Benny Hill, really. But just the face. You do a face, and you go, and you just it made you laugh, and that's why I loved a lot of Benny's humour. And going back to Benny's shows, Ali. Last night, I mean, these were very old ones, and they're so tame. And I love mime comedy. I love silent comedy. And so did Benny. And I think that's why when I went on GMB last week, and I was fiercely defending him. Apparently, on Twitter, I've become the title of the Benny Defender. The Benny Hill Defender. So I'm really happy with that title, because I do feel very strongly that he was just super talented. These sketches that I've been watching that are doing the reruns, they're very clever. And in the early days, they were all jokes about the men. The jokes were all on the men. The men came off worse. There was hardly any girls in these early sketches. Just a quick glimpse. Lots of Bob Todd, little Jackie Wright, you know, when he started slapping his head, and the amazing Henry McGee, who I was so lucky to live round the corner from Henry McGee in Parsons Green. He used to give me a lift to the studios, because I didn't have a car, I didn't drive then, and to get to the studios very early in the morning would have been a train, a bus, a train, or whatever. And Henry used to just pick me up in his car, and it was luxury to get a lift with Henry, the actor, his straight man, amazing. At the time, you know, when you're young and you don't appreciate the company of talented people, or you don't, you know, there's quite a lot of people like that. And I often think, oh, I wish I'd talked more to Henry in the car, which I didn't. I was probably,
Yeah, but I mean, it's all relevant, isn't it? I mean, I think, you know, we age the way we do, and, you know, we only sometimes really appreciate kind of, you know, the lifestyle or what we had after the event, so to speak.
Totally.
And, you know, I mean, by the sounds of things, and from what I've heard about Benny Hill, he was, you know, like a perfect gentleman, wasn't he?
And I tell you, my first day on my very first day on the Benny Hill show I was nervous, and he'd given me a sketch to do, and it was quite unusual. It was a sketch for just me. Benny wasn't in it. Nobody else was in it. And I was the first thing on at 9 a.m. in the morning. And of course, it was all hosted. It was all on Julie, and it was called the Titanic Sketch, I think. So basically, I wore a T-shirt a white t-shirt, and it had Titanic written on it. And I had to stand there with a big surfboard, and the surfboard had to cut into the words Titanic, so it just said TIT.
Yeah.
And I had to sway like this with the surfboard close up on my face, and I had to lick my lips, and I had to do, you know, one of these. Well, 9 o'clock in the morning, nerves, everything. I was going like this. I was just rubbish. I was just so nervous. And the director was not, I won't mention his name, but I didn't really like him. He wasn't very nice. And he just said, oh, for God's sake, you know, something like that. Do it again, Julie. You know, that wasn't very good. Do that. And they were going to pan out. So I was going from bad to worse. I ended up looking like a lizard, you know, going, look, look. And then I was supposed to reveal the Titanic, turn around, and on the back of my t-shirt it said, I'm a bit of a disaster. And I'd walk a few steps and then I'd do a pratfall and fall over. Could do that, absolutely no problem. But I couldn't do the sexy lip thing first thing in the morning, especially after the director had shouted at me. I was going from bad to worse. I didn't realise that Benny was in his dressing room, and he got a monitor on, and he could see me going, losing my confidence and going from bad to worse. Anyway, he came out of his dressing room, came onto the set and said to the director, go on to the next sketch. Julie Littleheart, come over here. And he took me over to a corner in the studio, and he said, don't worry, it's all about time, you know, the time of the filming. He said, but let me help you. Just imagine you've got your favorite ice cream, you know, over you, and you just got to lick it and just enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? And something like that. And he just really helped me. And he said, you're doing really well. And it's a difficult sketch because you're on your own. You haven't got anybody to, you know, and it's your first day on the Benny Hill show. It was really cruel, actually, when I think about it. But it was a lovely sketch. And I'm waiting to see it come on in these reruns, because I lost all my work. I was burgled really years ago in London and had all my videos, all my work stolen. So I'm really thrilled these are coming out again, because I'm filming everyone, hoping that I'll get my Benny Hill shows back and I'll see that sketch. And do you know what's really weird, Ali? My husband now remembers seeing that sketch and saying, oh, I liked it. I was a redhead then. And he said, oh, I remember that sketch. I said, you don't, you're just saying that. He said, no, I actually remember it. Because he's just one girl on her own. But that's how kind Benny was to me. He didn't have to do that. He could have come out and shouted at me like the director, but I just, you know, thank him for that. And I got it eventually.
Sounds like a lovely person. I mean, did you?
I love he was.
Did you strike up much of a conversation with him? You know, between
well, because I didn't live far from him in London. When he wasn't filming or working, he used to invite me over for lunch, because I think he was quite. I don't like to say lonely. It's not really the right word, but I think he liked my company, and we would go to fabulous places for lunch, like the Royal Garden Hotel, have lunch, and then we'd go back to his flat and watch Charlie Chaplin, black and whites, Charlie Chaplin movies, Laurel and Hardy, absolutely incredible. And then I'd probably have had a bit of wine. I'd fall asleep on the sofa, and then I'd wake up and he'd be cooking fish and chips, fish fingers. And then he'd give me a tea. He said, here are little hearts, have some tea, bread and butter, fish and finger sandwiches. And then he'd get me a black cab and send me off to Fulham to my flat. Give me a £50 note, and I think it's only a £5 to my flat. He said, no, go and buy yourself some shoes. What? You know, it's just so kind, and never anything ever happened untoward. Never. No, I felt so safe in his company. It was really kind like that.
Oh, that's lovely. So, I mean, when was it he passed away?
Jeeps. Now you've got me. I know it was Easter time. It's a really sad story. I know it was Easter time, and they hadn't found him. The whole of Easter he'd spent on his own. Sorry, he'd been dead in his flat, and they broke in. One of the directors broke in because they couldn't get hold of him and discovered him. I think it might have been 2013, maybe earlier, 2013. I'm not sure of the year, but and I remember when I first bought my own flat, Benny rang me, and I was painting the ceiling, literally on a ladder, painting the ceiling. My boyfriend, who's now my husband, at the time, said, "There's a phone call for you." You know, it's one of those old-fashioned phones, big heavy thing. And I said, "Oh, pass me." He said, "It's Benny Hill." And I went, "Oh, really?" And a paintbrush in. "Hi, Benny. Hello, little heart. What are you doing?" "I'm up top of a ladder painting my ceiling. I've bought a flat." Oh, little heart, how wonderful, how wonderful. "And do you need anything? Do you need anything?" "Oh, no, I'm fine. Thank you. Do you need anything for your flat?" Just so kind.
Oh, that is so nice, isn't it?
I could have milked it, but I said, "Oh, yes, I need new carpets and a sofa."
Yeah.
Not that type of girl. Yeah.
No, I mean, it is, I totally understand what you're saying, because, you know, he was obviously a really true character and gentleman, and just, you know.
Another thing he used to say, Ali, was he used to get a lot of flack, or a lot of hassle from the tailors in London, wanting to make shirts for him and everything. And he used to say, "How many shirts do I need? There's only 7 days in a week. I only need 7. But he'd get all these posh tailors wanting to make him suits and shirts, in particular, shirt makers. But, you know, he was just so normal in that respect. He didn't spend a lot of his money. He wasn't flash with it.
No, it's
generous.
Generous. Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it's not all about that. I mean, it's just like, you know, the man behind the very public person is it doesn't always marry, does it? The image that people.
But of course he I don't think he did many private interviews, did he? I don't think he went on chat shows like Parky or anything. I don't remember him ever anything like that. I think maybe he was too nervous in case they asked too personal a question.
Yeah. I mean, some of his stuff was, I suppose you could say at the time, considered risque. But, you know, when you actually sort of bring that into modern day life, I mean.
Oh, gosh. Yes, you're right. It's so tame. It is so. I mean, I was not on that interview last week on GMB. I was not allowed to compare Benny Hill shows to anything. I wasn't allowed to mention the names of any current programs that are out there under the umbrella of light entertainment, which I absolutely think there's a lot of programs, but, you know, really there's so little talent involved in them. Whereas on Benny's programs, it was boundless talent coming out, not just from Benny, all his straight people, you know, it was fabulous. And the clever writing and the filming. And he used to always try different camera angles and different techniques, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you think, I mean, you know, if you think of some of the programs now, I suppose, you know, I mean, this is, you might not be able to mention it, but I can. I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, if I think about, you know, programs like Love Island and all these sort of, what's the word, reality TV shows. I mean, you know, this is serious stuff and should be questioning, you know, why they're on before the watershed. Why are children allowed to watch those kind of things? Yeah, why are they on a pool, in fact? You know, I mean, it kind of, I don't want to sound old-fashioned here, but it kind of, you know, steps over a lot of dignity in my eyes. But, you know, then I'm going to come across as judgmental. But, you know, whatever. I just think when you look back to that, it's like, you know, Benny Hill's era was like the Carry On films. Totally. You had that innuendo, but there wasn't anything that was really, you know, and come on, let's face it. I mean, that's what
now all about. Where people are totally naked, choosing their date through looking at their private parts. I mean, I'm not mentioning the name of that program, but I think you know which one I mean. And I actually watched 3 seconds of it and had to turn over because, I mean, call me old-fashioned as well. But I just found it totally abhorrent. And also, where's the talent? There's no talent. You know, and people are becoming celebrities without having an ounce of talent in them. You know, it's just and there's so much talent out there. If only the producers would go and look for it. Fantastic young people who could present shows, and it doesn't have to be young people either. I mean, let's face it, it's a very PC world now. For instance, me, I'd love to be presenting a fitness thing on national TV. I'd love to do something like that. Just saying, come on, everybody, early January, come on, get off the sofa and move around with me, and let's dance. I mean, put some music on, and it doesn't matter what you do, just keep moving. Don't be a sofa surfer or whatever you call them.
Well, I think, that's that kind of brings us to another issue in this day and age compared to then. I mean, they didn't have all these devices. They didn't have all these games and, gaming, or we didn't. Certainly when I was growing up, I didn't have it. So it's, they're just not getting out in the fresh air. They're not getting out.
I had the beach 2 minutes from my house. I had the beach, Skegness Beach, to run up to and practice my cartwheels, or just run around in the sand dunes with my friends and jump around. We had that. Excellent. So lucky. I'm so glad I wasn't in an era with all this techno. I'm glad I can do it now. I'm really glad I can, my children have got me up to scratch with it. My son got me on Zoom first lockdown number 1. He said, Mom, I'll help you with the Zoom classes if you want to put your dance classes. It was the best thing. And it kept me super busy, and it kept all my ladies who do my classes going. And so I've learned a new skill. My mum, who's 84, came on every class. She's taught herself how to go on Zoom. She's incredible. So even though she's in Skegness, I'm in Llangollen, she sees me a couple of times a week on Zoom to dance with me. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it is fantastic.
From that point of view, techno has been amazing for the pandemic, for keeping people connected. So wouldn't it be awful if we'd had this pandemic with no techno? It would have been really difficult.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
It has its pluses. It does have its pluses, but
it does have its pluses. It really does. And I mean, we need to be grateful for all of that. But it's just amazing, isn't it, how sort of attitudes have changed to things. Whereas, as I said years ago, you just kind of got on with it, or it's like the whole sexual connotations. I mean, boy meets girl, girl meets girl, boy meets boy, whatever combination, there
going on
always a sexual connotation.
Thinking about and discussing that, I just think, going back to the Benny era and techno and everything, I would say we probably didn't have, back in my younger day, as many paedophiles as we do now in the whole world, because techno has got them all together, hasn't it, and given them the ammunition that
this is it. You couldn't be more on the money as far as that is concerned, because I mean, it really, really has been quite a scary situation where people are groomed online. That's the downside of
parents. Women are having babies, women are getting pregnant to have babies, to be abused online. That I can't get my mind around. Why would a woman have a baby purely so that her and her husband can put this baby? I mean, that's just and of course the people who run these sites, they can't find them. The police find it so difficult to find them, don't they? So it's just all that going on. What about Benny Hill? Why does he have to have a big warning sign? Because he's coming back, he's coming back on our screens. It's so tame compared to what other atrocities and horrendous things are going on screens.
Absolutely, completely. I couldn't agree more. And as I said, I think we've kind of like lost the plot. I mean, this phrase overly woke is I mean, it is, I mean, not with everything. There are some things, to do with racism and other things that have needed to come to the forefront. But I think, as far as sexism or sexist or sexual connotations are concerned, that's a part of everyday life. As I said, when you meet your partner, or
I'd like to say, Ali, is it's so natural for a man to do a double take at a beautiful woman. it's such a you cannot take that away from men, and vice versa from women, or anybody to go, wow, she's gorgeous. I admire beautiful women. Like sometimes I say to my husband, oh look, she's gorgeous, isn't she? Got beautiful legs and skin, and she's just an Adonis. Yeah. And it's just, you're not really, we're just going too far. And I have to be careful what I say here, because my daughter, who's 20 and at university in Cambridge, she's in an all women's college. She's at Newnham College in Cambridge, and she's becoming the wokest person I know, and I have to be super careful with what I say to her. And she's coming, we're picking her up this Sunday, and I think we're going to be having some serious debates with her, because she's going to come home, because she's in that whole zone of wokeism in Cambridge, in a feminist college. So we're wondering what's she coming home every 3 months. She comes home for her half terms or whatever they are, and we think, oh my gosh, she's being radicalized. What's happening to her? She's changing so much.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, my daughter's like that as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think, that there does need to be more equality around women. And, we are opening up to that. And, we can cut the mustard in the boardroom just as well as the next guy. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I can see what they mean in one way. It's like, a woman shouldn't be viewed as a sexual object. Not at all. But also,
it's human nature, isn't it?
Is that, as I said, I don't want to, because I do, I am slightly woke, but not completely woke, because I'm a certain generation. But
yeah,
it's just like when anybody meets anybody for the first time, whether it be boy and boy, girl and girl, or boy and girl, there is that sexual chemistry between them.
Absolutely.
And
it's fun of it all. Going back to Benny, he was just making fun of men actually not being able to get the beautiful women, wasn't it? That was his whole comedy. His ethos was, look at me, I can't get a pretty girl.
I can't get a beautiful girl, which is just
he just used to always go on about, oh gosh, we can't get Charlotte Rampling. He really liked Charlotte Rampling. He always wanted her on the show. I think he did actually manage to persuade her to come on his show and do a sketch with him. I wasn't there at the time, but I do know he did have a crush on Charlotte Rampling. I think it was part of the name. He just loved the name. It's a great name, isn't it? And he said, but sometimes in his sketches, if one of the other actresses wouldn't get it right, he'd go, should have got Charlotte Rampling, and it used to be like an ongoing gag on his shows. But absolutely nothing wrong with showing love and admiration for beautiful people. Yeah, I'm half woke, I think, as well, like you.
Yeah, we had to evolve. We've had to evolve, haven't we? There is that. But, and that's the other thing that strikes me about wokeism, though, is that you can't tell. You can't tell your daughter, you can't tell my daughter, you can't tell them anything, because, even though we've had a lot of life experience, and as I said, probably by now you would hope understand the whole sexual connotation thing between people, and chemistry between people, and you just can't tell them, which is sad in a way, isn't it? Because
we're just hoping that Tallulah, our daughter, will go through it all, and then when she's a bit older, come out of it not totally 100% woke, just go through. Maybe when she leaves uni, she'll just get into the real world of where you can't jump on everybody. You can't jump on everybody and everything with wokeism.
It's also like,
compromise, I think, is the word. But we're a little bit anxious about picking her up on Sunday. We're thinking, oh my gosh, sitting around the table having a meal with her, what are we going to talk about that we're allowed to talk about? What are we allowed to say? She's going to be jumping on us. Oh, you can't say that in a nice way. Oh, you can't do that. Yeah, you shouldn't have that thought. And because she's teaching us all the new sayings, and I can't keep up with it all.
Yeah,
but it's good that we have these people in our lives to to open our minds to what is out there, but then we don't have to accept everything, do we?
No, we don't have to accept everything.
I think you and I are going to agree on that. We don't have to accept everything our daughters want us to.
No,
accept.
absolutely not. I mean, not so long ago, because I've got a son as well. When we first were in the first lockdown, this was last year, or sort of towards the summer before we started coming back
Two
out
summers
again.
ago. 2 summers
Yeah,
ago.
2 summers ago, literally. And I can remember, because my son was living in London at the time, visiting Will in London, and my daughter and him were very much going on about how they supported Black Lives Matter and all this type of thing. And I completely see what happened with George Floyd, and I even, because I was working in TV at the time, did a report on it. But anything I seem to say, which is so silly, because I really did get it completely, 100%. If I said anything, oh, you're acting like a white supremacist, and
they shoot you down. They shoot you down, bang, bang. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong word to say, actually. I mean, our children, that's why we just, because my husband's like, it's going to be very quiet meal times. I'm not going to say anything, because my husband has strong opinions and he likes to debate, but he actually at the moment doesn't like the way our daughter in particular won't open her mind to other people's ideas. I mean, it's just an age thing, I guess, and she's just right in the zone. She's just so in the zone where she is at the moment. Feminism, everything, and I'm not going to battle with her. I said, look, we'll have to make a pact, a Christmas New Year's pact. When she's home, we don't want any serious debating and any arguments and any, just please, happy time, otherwise you won't come home again.
Oh, no, absolutely. And, you have to draw the line somewhere, and there's no point, because, they'll either arrive at that decision or they won't eventually, and that's how life is. But yeah, I mean, what a phenomenal career you've had, really. And, to have been mixing with, Jeremy Beadle and Benny Hill. I mean, what an icon, really.
I did also work with Steven Spielberg on Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Doom, which was fantastic fun. I was a dancer on that for 6 weeks. And that was just amazing, doing the Shanghai nightclub scene, a real Busby Berkeley. It's right at the very beginning of Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. And I was one of the many girls, all cloned in top hat and tails, all had blonde wigs and canes, and we did this fabulous Busby Berkeley tap routine. It was fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You should do it. Have you thought about writing a book, Julie?
Well, I've got a lovely story. Have you got time for this story about Indiana Jones? So we had 6 weeks rehearsal, 3 weeks rehearsals, 3 weeks filming, I think. And during the rehearsals, Steven Spielberg came in one morning. Well, first of all, the American choreographer was a bit gnarly, and he couldn't be bothered to learn our names. So he gave us all numbers. So we had to rehearse with numbers in our rehearsal clothes all day. We were like, oh God, that's so awful. So Steven Spielberg heard about this. And the next day he came in as a dancer, and he was like number 41. It was so funny. He gave himself a number and I think he had a word with the director, with the choreographer, and said, try, just have the girls' names, not a number. Have Julie written. So that was one thing. And the other nice thing, this is how nice Steven Spielberg is. How crazy he is with other people's money. So he decided, as it was Busby Berkeley, and we were doing this big tap dance routine, all in formations, all the straight lines, and a beautiful set. It was all black, big, like a big aircraft hangar. It was all black, and we had silver tap shoes, silver hats, and we'd all dance towards the camera, the crane, and then the crane camera would lift, and we'd all lift our hats like this at the same time. And he wanted real white doves to fly off from inside our hats, and we were going, well, I didn't mind. I was like, oh, that would look amazing. We all thought, yeah, that looked great, very Busby Berkeley. So we had to go, after rehearsals every day, we had to go to this massive white marquee tent and practice having a real bird put on our head underneath our top hats. So first of all, some of the girls just went no, they got a thing about birds. They just said, no, I'm not doing it. So they said, so then they had to, that was fine. He said, not everybody has to do it. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go. So I went in and of course, we all had wigs on for the day, but at rehearsals, we didn't have wigs. So we went in after about 5 o'clock, tea time, and we had a real bird on our real hair, scratching his claws on the hand and go, yeah, it's okay, just so long as it's for a few minutes. Well, you'll have a wig on, so you won't feel his little, so fine. On the day of the filming, we all had the blonde wigs on, and we were standing in our formations, and these bird handlers were coming up with big baskets of doves and saying, have you got a dove? Yeah, put one on. Hat, start ready, okay, action. We do our little tap dance for a few seconds, everybody lifts the hats up. The first thing that happens is the girl right at the front, I think it was Gaynor, her bird pooped in her eye and behind a contact lens, so she was screaming, so that didn't look very pretty, and they were doing a close-up of her and then panning out, and then the birds just pooed on everybody, lots of screaming girls going, and I didn't scream or anything. Well, this is hilarious. I was right in the middle of the formation. So it was just hilarious. Anyway, it took them hours to clean the set. Big white bird poo everywhere. And then they got all the doves back and said, okay, we're going again. Oh, we're doing it again. So I standing there waiting for these bird handlers to bring me my bird. And I just sort of thought, oh, I'm not doing this again. So I just sort of shook my hat and went, yeah, I've got a bird, and pretended I'd got a bird under there, which was a bit naughty. And then we did it 3 or 4 times, and every time I just said, yeah, I've got a bird, I've got one from that handler. Yeah, naughty. But anyway, we did it about 3 times, and in the end it just took too long. The next day we all were in rehearsals, and Steven Spielberg said, at lunchtime, come and look at the rushes, they are hilarious. And we went to look at the rushes, and it was just bedlam, mayhem, lots of screaming girls, lots of pigeons pooing, lots of poo everywhere. The whole thing was, but it cost thousands to get the birds and the cleaning and everything. It was just a waste of film, really. But
yeah,
it was.
Yeah, it but was anyway, a film that I bet you wish you could have kept in a way.
I'd love to have seen them. I'd love to have the rushes.
Yeah, definitely. Oh gosh, do you know what, Julie? I could be with you for ages. So, are you actually going to write your memoirs, your book about, those?
Probably not me. I might ask my husband to. He's the writer. He's clever. He writes, but he's written a few films. Actually, you should interview him. He's written films. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, no. So do I know? Will I have heard of him?
No, not really, because as I say, he's been unlucky to not have had a good agent to open doors for him. He's very well known in Wales. He's a big star in Wales because he speaks Welsh, and he does a lot in the Welsh language, and that's why he's a big star. He did do Radio 4, he did Book at Bedtime, and he's done Morning Story many years ago, and he got great reviews. One particular listener wrote in saying, I haven't heard a voice like that since Richard Burton. Oh, that was so nice. So he read, he has got a great voice for radio.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, it's lovely. So it's lovely to have you on Tea Time, and thanks for coming today and sharing all those stories, and especially, hats off to Benny Hill, because in my eyes, as I said, it was good, clean fun, wasn't it?
Yes, and one of our best British exports.
Yeah, no kidding.
I just wish he was here now and I could tell him to his face, that he was loved, because I think he died not feeling very loved and looked after, which is super sad, really. Sorry to go all on you, but yeah, it is a shame.
I think,
all that hard work, the hard work. He used to go off to France and write in France a lot. And when I was doing a show in France, I was in Cannes doing a summer season there. He came over to see me and took all the dancers and myself out for lunch. And he was just generous. Lovely.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, lovely. You take care, Julie. Bye. Bye. Look forward to chatting with my next guest on the Tea Time sofa this time next Saturday. In the meantime, if you would love to get in touch about having a chat with me, you can reach me on teatime at forthenow.co.uk, or you can find me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram on Tea Time with AM. Bye for now.